Yakuza 0 is an absolute roller coaster in so many ways. The parallel storylines will take you to triumphant highs and crushing lows, as long as you're able to forgive the game for some of its inconsistencies. Yakuza 0 is a fun, emotional, and unpolished mishmash of a game, but it's absolutely worth investing yourself into. Your time with Yakuza 0 will be spent alternating between the two main characters, Kiryu Kazuma, an unproven Yakuza who gets framed for a murder he didn't commit, and Goro Majima, an exiled member of the family who takes on a hit job to get himself back into the game. Their narratives are as much about family, honor, and friendship as much as they are about what it means to be a Yakuza and real estate. The story manages to stay surprisingly grounded as it takes you through our main character's involvement in the Empty Lot incident. The Empty Lot is the linchpin of a major construction project within the game's main city of Kamurocho, and securing this piece of land from its legal owner means big money and big power for the organization strong enough to take it. If you're worried about not being familiar enough with the Yakuza series to enjoy this game, then fear not. This game acts as a prequel to the series' storied lineup, which is why it was such a good pick for it to be the first game in the series for Sega to release on PC, which is the version I'm playing here. Yakuza 0 serves as a great introduction to the series' absolutely wild cast of characters, and it's impossible not to fall in love with them. Antagonist Daisuke Kuze's strict adherence to honor and Yakuza tradition makes him a constantly entertaining opponent, and a heavy contrast to other enemies like the enigmatic Nishitani, who has a major tendency to talk about his erections mid-fight because of how excited he is. You're bound to find someone you love, and the occasionally tragic stories of both main characters will keep you invested from beginning to end. Your 20-plus hour romp through the game doesn't come without its blotches. The major one that I want to start with is the game's wildly inconsistent presentation. There are no less than 4 ways in which the game presents its cutscenes. The best of the 4 is the pre-rendered, fully voiced cutscenes. These are the ones you can expect the game to be in for a lot of the major story beats. Below that, you have both the voiced in-game cutscenes, as well as the cutscenes with text over still images, which are also voiced. And of course, sinking to the bottom of the list is the unvoiced in-game cutscenes. When the game sticks towards the top of this list, it feels cinematic and incredible, but the constant jumping between styles, especially when you hit the unvoiced content, feels incredibly low effort and always takes me out of the experience. Audio isn't the only area to suffer inconsistencies. The visuals are all over the place. My heart wants to give Yakuza 0 a little slack, given that it did have its roots as a PS3 game in Japan, but even by PS3 standards, some of these character models and faces are downright ugly. It's especially jarring when these models are juxtaposed next to the main characters, whose faces occasionally border on photorealism. I want to talk about some of my gripes with the game's side content, as my gripes with the side content and presentation are intrinsically linked. Now, I want to preface this point with a distinction in what I mean by side content. The side content in Yakuza 0 can be broken down into 2 broad categories: minigames and sub-stories. The minigames are pretty solid. Though none of them are quite robust enough to stand up on their own, the sheer quantity of them give amazing context to the late 80s Japan you're playing in, and the era-appropriate arcade games are a real standout. The sub-stories, on the other hand, are small quest lines with secondary or tertiary characters, usually with a moral of some sort at the end. The simplicity of the quests is often endearing enough, but the common string between all the sub-stories is that all of them are completely unvoiced. It's hard to recommend taking a dive into any of these sub-stories when you miss out on the excellent presentation that the main story gives at least some of the time. Watch these clips and tell me which you would rather play. Presentation aside, the gameplay of the sub-stories is usually on the weak side too. Many of them feel unnecessarily dragged out by having you run around town to do errands. Actually navigating around the town is occasionally a drag too, given how your character controls like a tank, trying to navigate these narrow streets. Now I think it's finally time to talk about the game's other strong aspect, aside from the main story, and that's the combat. Oh man, is Yakuza's particular blend of brawling and grappling a treat to play. Your fights have you constantly managing the building and spending of your heat meter, which can be used to unleash some devastating finishing moves. Your primary weapons are going to be your fists and whatever else you can get your hands on. Sofas, chairs, you name it. It gives an awesome franticness to the fights as you run around looking for anything you can to bludgeon your foes. Good use of the environment isn't the only boon of the combat. Each of the two main characters has 3 different fighting styles, each associated with a different speed. Each individual style both plays and looks different from each other. Majima's breakdancer style is great for taking out large packs of nameless grunts, but Kiryu's brawler style is better equipped to handle some bosses one-on-one. Ripping off your jacket to reveal your back tattoos is the Yakuza equivalent of going Super Saiyan, and it is consistently badass, every time. The battles also have a solid sense of spectacle. Each individual fighting style emanates its own colored aura around your character, and your enemies will emanate the aura as well. Aside from just looking cool, these clue you in on how frequently you can expect your foe to attack, so you can execute a well-timed dodge. Money flying all over the place as you strike your enemies is a nice touch too. When taken together as a whole package, Yakuza 0 is kind of all over the place. The fact that the presentation is unpolished and the sub-stories are downright bad are pretty major downsides, but this game's big saving grace is that the side content is exactly that, side content. If you play this game straight through the intended path of the main story, with a couple mini-games on the side, you're in for one hell of a treat. If you guys liked the video, feel free to like and subscribe to let me know I'm doing a good job, and please leave a comment if you have thoughts on what the next review should be. Till next time.